Welcome back to American Truth. Today, we'll take a look at the four most censored countries of all time. So let's start with Iran first. Number 1. Iran. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been supreme leader since 1989. Hassan Rouhani has been president since August 2013. The government uses mass and arbitrary detention as a means of silencing dissent and forcing journalists into exile. Iran became the world's leading jailer of journalists in 2009 and has ranked among the world's worst jailers of the press every year since. Iranian authorities maintain one of the toughest internet censorship regimes in the world, blocking millions of websites, including news and social networking sites. They are suspected of using sophisticated techniques, such as setting up fake versions of popular websites and search engines, and the regime frequently jams satellite signals. The situation for the press has not improved under Rouhani, despite the hopes of UN member states and human rights groups. Rouhani also failed to uphold his campaign promise to reinstate the 4,000-member Association of Iranian Journalists, which was forced to close in 2009. Iranian authorities control coverage of certain topics by tightening the small circle of journalists and news outlets allowed to report on them. In February, Iran's Supreme National Security Council filed a lawsuit against conservative journalist Hossein Ghadiani and the newspaper he works for, Vatan-e-Emrouz. The newspaper, which supports former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, had published 4 articles that criticized Iran's international nuclear negotiations and alleged corruption in the government's dealing with an oil company. Number 2. North Korea. Kim Jong-un, who took over after his father Kim Jong-il, who died in 2011. Article 53 of the country's constitution calls for freedom of the press, but even with an Associated Press bureau staffed by North Koreans and located in the Pyongyang headquarters of the state-run Korean Central News Agency.
Democracy is a fragile thing, more fragile than you want to believe.
And a small foreign press corps from politically sympathetic countries, access to independent news sources is extremely limited. Nearly all the content of North Korea's 12 main newspapers, 20 periodicals, and broadcasters comes from the official Korean Central News Agency, which focuses on the political leadership statements and activities. The internet is restricted to the political elite, but some schools and state institutions have access to a tightly controlled internet called Kwangmyong, according to the AP. North Koreans looking for independent information have turned to bootleg foreign TV and radio signals and smuggled foreign DVDs, particularly along the porous border with China. Although cell phones are banned, some citizens have been able in recent years to access news through smuggled phones, which rely on Chinese cell towers. South Korean newspapers have reported that North Korea in 2013 started manufacturing smartphones that run on a network built by the Egyptian company Orascom and the state-owned Korea Post and Telecommunications Corp. Traders in street markets are regularly seen with 3G phones that can support video exchange and texting, according to travelers returning from North Korea. After Kim Jong-un ordered his uncle, Jang Song-tak, executed around the time of the second anniversary of his father's death, any mention of Jang was removed from state media archives, including official video from which Jang was carefully edited. Jang was vilified in the media as the despicable human scum who was worse than a dog.
It's not hard for democracy to collapse. All you have to do is nothing.
Number 3. Saudi Arabia. King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, who took power in January 2015 after the death of his half-brother, King Abdullah. The Saudi government has progressively intensified legal repression since the Arab Spring. Amendments to the press law in 2011 punished the publication of any materials deemed to contrive Sharia, impinge on state interests, promote foreign interests, harm public order or national security, or enable criminal activity. In 2014, the government issued a new anti-terrorism law and regulations that Human Rights Watch said will criminalize virtually any expression or association critical of the government and its understanding of Islam. The law granted the Specialized Criminal Court, established in 2008, the ability to hear unchallenged testimony while the defendant or the defendant's lawyer is absent. The General Commission for the Audiovisual Media announced in April 2014 that it will monitor online and YouTube content to ensure that Saudi contributors, among the largest audience for the online video sharing site, adhere to government guidelines. YouTube is used by many Saudis to address controversial issues, such as women driving, and to document events not covered in the media, such as the stabbing of a Canadian in Dhahran City Mall in November 2014. Saudi Arabia also used its regional influence in the Gulf Cooperation Council to pass restrictions that prevent media in member states from criticizing the leadership of other member states. A string of arrests and prosecutions of those expressing independent views took place in 2014. Many of those arrested were accused of press-related charges after covering protests. In October, the government used a 2007 anti-cybercrime law to charge at least 7 Saudis in connection with their use of Twitter to allegedly criticize the authorities and call for women to be allowed to drive. Number 4.
China.
President Xi Jinping, in office since March 2013. For more than a decade, China has been among the top 3 jailers of journalists in the world, a distinction that it is unlikely to lose anytime soon. Document 9, a secret white paper dated April 22, 2014, which was widely leaked online and to the international press, included the directive to combat 7 political perils and reject the concept of universal values and the promotion of the West's view of the media. Document 9 made it clear that the role of the media is to support the party's unilateral rule. The paper reasserted the necessity for China's technological and human censors to be ever more vigilant when keeping watch over the country's 642 million internet users, about 22% of the world's online population. In November 2014, Xu Xiao, a poetry and arts editor for the Beijing-based business magazine Caixin, was detained on suspicion of endangering national security. The Central Propaganda Department warned editors not to report on the investigation into Xu, raising fears that the tactics used to stifle political dissent would broaden to publications looking critically at the arts. International journalists trying to work in China have faced obstacles, with visas delayed or denied. Although some visa restrictions between the US and China have eased, during a press conference in Beijing with US President Barack Obama in November 2014, Xi argued the international journalists facing visa restrictions had brought the trouble on themselves. Gao Yu, one of the 44 journalists behind bars in China, was detained on charges of illegally providing state secrets abroad, days after details of Document 9 appeared in Mirror Monthly, a Chinese-language political magazine in New York. Gao, 70, confessed on official state broadcaster CCTV, but during her closed trial on November 21, 2014, she said that the confession was false and made only to prevent her son from being threatened and harassed, her lawyer said. The list of 4 most censored countries is based on CPJ research, as well as the expertise of the organization's staff. Countries are measured with the use of a series of benchmarks, including the absence of privately owned or independent media, blocking of websites, restrictions on electronic recording and dissemination, license requirements to conduct journalism, restrictions on journalist movements, monitoring of journalists by authorities, jamming of foreign broadcasts, and blocking of foreign correspondence. So, Americans, we've come to the end of this video. Are there any more countries which we missed? Comment below and let us know about more countries which should be included in this list so that we can make a part 2 to this video. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up and share this video with all your friends. Also, if you're new to the channel, then don't forget to subscribe to American Truth for more informative and interesting videos like this. Until then, see you in the next video.